Welcome. This is Outnumbered. I'm Melissa Francis. Here today is Fox Business Network's Dagen McDowell, Democratic strategist Julie Roginsky, reporter for National Review Online Katherine Timpf, and today's #OneLuckyGuy co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend, Tucker Carlson, and he is wildly outnumbered.
Wildly
but
comfortable
outnumbered.
being outnumbered.
You got a new toupee. It looks
Whoa!
just for us. That's so nice.
Well, thank you for
you
noticing,
have
Dagen.
awesome hair. Come on.
But you're right to note it's not actually mine.
Oh
now
my!
I've got you. That's a debate strategy. Now I've got you back on your heels.
so good.
Maybe he's wearing that cone of uncertainty that Janice Dean was talking
I think
about
his hair is a cone of uncertainty for everybody.
All right, well, that was fun. We go to the race for the White House now in the bitter Twitter war erupting between Donald Trump and Mexico's president over who's going to pay for the border wall following the GOP nominee's visit to Mexico and his fiery speech on immigration. Trump tweeting emphatically, quote, "Mexico will pay for the wall," to which Mexico's leader replied, quote, "I repeat what I said personally, Mr. Trump. Mexico would never pay for a wall." All this is some major Latino surrogates for Trump stepping down, and the Trump campaign setting a record one-day halt in donations following his Wednesday night speech. In the meantime, the candidate himself on the O'Reilly factor signaling his top goals on tackling illegal immigration and appearing to acknowledge the realities of such a massive undertaking. Listen.
We're going to build the wall. We're going to get rid of all of the bad players that are here, the gang members, the gang leaders, the drug dealers, all of the cartel people. After that takes place, we're going to sit back. We're going to assess the situation. We're going to see where we are, because we'll have people in the country that, you know, that have come in illegally. We're going to sit back. We're going to assess the situation.
Ooh, a lot to drill down on there. Tucker, my friend, let me start with you. The Twitter war between the presidents, is it unbecoming after
Yes,
such
it's
a I mean, it's classic Trump. It's kind of...
It is classic Trump. Here's the difference, though. I mean, first of all, I think Twitter diminishes anyone who participates in it, just my view.
Uh-oh.
And it certainly diminishes people of the stature of Trump and the president of Mexico. There's no reason. There are many ways they can express their views, right? So there's no reason for them to do this. But in this specific case, it's a disaster because his speech was so successful and because he made point after point that was basically irrefutable. They were all correct. They're consistent with American history, with American values. And this kind of behavior, focusing on that one point, who's going to pay for the wall, essentially an immaterial, irrelevant point, allows his detractors to also focus on that point and to ignore the many important things that he said. That speech was the best moment, I thought, of his entire candidacy.
Yeah.
And so why take from it by fighting on Twitter?
Well, this is what Julie has actually been talking about. Rather than keeping his eyes on the road, he's got his right side tires off on the shoulder, and he's going to get a flat. He's not paying attention to what he's doing.
Yes.
And I look at all the issues that he should be focusing on. Can we talk about the economy? It is the #1 issue for American voters, according to the latest Fox News poll. We have weaker than expected job growth. The wage growth is slowing. The economy is barely growing. Worst recovery since 1949. And he is in a dead heat with Hillary Clinton on the issue in the latest poll.
But he addressed those issues in his speech.
He's not hitting it. He has lost double-digit percentages in terms of how he rates on the economy.
Let me argue the other side for a second, then you tell me where I went wrong. It is a bit like he's having his cake and eating it too. He gives the speech. Some people are happy with that. He goes on Twitter. Other people like that. He comes out and says that, you know, in one hand, he's going to deport 5 to 11 million people. Then Reince Priebus comes on earlier on our network saying that's not what he said. He said that after he deports the criminals, then he's going to take a step back and see where we are. He's kind of saying everything to everyone at this point. So maybe everyone's happy with what they're hearing.
Well, I think actually nobody's happy. Everybody's very confused. You need a consistent message. I mean, if you're running for president, if you're running for dog catcher, whatever you're running for, you need to have a consistent message. And his message is so muddled. The fact that he's getting into a Twitter war with a head of state is, to me, just unbelievable. And again, you know, Dagen for president, because Dagen just laid out what he should be laying out. She just laid out the entire Republican Party platform as it should be repeated over Twitter, as it should be repeated over social media, and that's not what he's doing.
It is confusing because people are just so quick to say, oh, look, here's the pivot. Like when he went to Mexico, he was very calm, very kind, I loved it. It was great. And then that night, the speech in Arizona, very different dude that we're watching. And I'm sure a speech like that fires up the base, but the base is already fired up. He needs to expand that a little bit, and I think the tone interferes with him being able to do that sometimes, because some of the things he's saying not that radical, like saying that if you're here illegally, you go to jail, you shouldn't be able to come out and shoot someone's kid. I think everybody would agree with that. But that sometimes gets distracted by the way that he talks about things. And this mass deportation thing, I don't think anybody really wants that. Liberals obviously don't want it. Conservatives shouldn't want it, seeing as the kind of police state that would have to create. I think he really needs to back away from that.
Tucker, you made a great point, which I can't believe more people aren't making. Who pays for the wall is so ridiculous. It's semantics. I mean, you could do it with tariffs. You could hold back aid. There's a million different ways it could be done, one way or the other.
Over $100 billion a year in savings just from controlling the uncontrolled flow of people into this country illegally. So there's just that. But he made a very strong economic case. And you may be right, Kat, that his tone obscures it and people can't hear what he's saying. Read the speech. He makes the case. Hillary Clinton says she's running on wages. Really? One of the great depressors of wages is a surfeit of labor. If you've got too many people at the bottom end of the labor pool, wages go down. It's supply and demand. It's the most basic of all economic principles. That's a powerful economic case.
If you're speaking to the vast majority of voters out there about the economy and their own personal financial situation, you have to broaden it out beyond immigration when you're talking about it.
Well, he needs
to look at her and say she's promising more of what President Obama has given us in 7.5 years, but better results. And that is idiocy. That's all he has to say. I'm proposing something different. She is not. And he misses the boat on it.
But here's the problem. First of all, you have a Fox News poll that just came out. 19% want the deportation that he's talking about. 77% want a path to legalization.
But he's not talking about that. He's not talking about deporting everybody.
Yeah, well, now he's not. Before he was. I'm confused. Where is he? Is he not backing away from his pledge of the last year to not mass
clearly
deport?
on the take a pause after we send the criminals out of the country.
I don't know what that means. Does that mean they're going to continue to live in the shadows, work illegally, and there's no path to legalization, which is the status quo right now? What is he proposing? And secondly, when we talk about this border wall, this is a question I really wish somebody could answer for me, or at least ask Donald Trump. The Rio Grande, the river, is a huge divider of the border between Mexico and the United States. Where are we building this wall? In the middle of the Rio Grande?
We're putting sharks and gators in there.
Seriously, is it going to be like lasers with sharks like Austin Powers? Is it going to be on the Mexican side of the border? No, but literally, is it going to be on the Mexican side of the border?
Can that possibly be the problem with this? I mean, really?
It's a legitimate question. Where's the wall going to be?
Which does the country have a right to have secure borders?
Where are you going to put the border?
Look, the Rio Grande is dry. I hunt down there a lot. It's dry in a lot of places.
So you're going to put it in the middle of the Rio Grande?
It doesn't matter. These are logistical questions that are immaterial.
They're very
material. Are these meaningful questions?
No, Tucker, they're not, because if you're talking about putting it in the middle of a river, that's one thing. If you're talking about putting it on the Mexican side of the border,
look, the left opposes the wall because they don't want to control the flow of people into the country because they vote Democrat. Like, let's be honest.
I would love to hear the answer to that question. It's not a technical question. It's a sovereignty question.
In that speech, he firmed up some waffling that had been coming out of his campaign about immigration, and then gets into some Twitter battle with the head of state. That's where he goes wrong. That's where
that's what people on MTV do, not people who are running for president of the United States.
And then today, he gets into a crazy psychoanalysis of Mika Brzezinski over at MSNBC when he should be talking about what Dagen was just saying.
But I mean, on the merits, he might not be that far.
Right.
I mean, on the merits, if you're running to be head of state.
And I take great pride that I don't even know how to pronounce that woman's name.
Well, I know her father. It's Zbigniew Brzezinski.
All right. The State Department now going to release all of Hillary Clinton's schedules from her time as Secretary of State before Election Day. And now even more evidence of the blurry lines between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation, whether all of this is going to hurt her campaign for the White House. Plus, he was a star Stanford swimmer before he was convicted of raping an unconscious woman. Today, Brock Turner getting out of jail, having served only half of the 6-month sentence that sparked so much outrage.